All right, so here's my review of the infamous "Wish You Were Here" by Pink Floyd. Personally, I've listened to all the Pink Floyd albums multiple times, so this isn't after my first time hearing it. But while "Dark Side of the Moon" may be their biggest album, this is my personal favorite, and I feel like has influenced me as a guitar player the most. Just to start off with this album, it's it's beautiful. It's a tribute to Syd Barrett, who created Pink Floyd and really influenced their whole just style. Even though I like stuff post Syd Barrett a bit more, you still hear the influences, and this album is full of tributes to him. So it starts off with "Shine on You Crazy Diamond" parts 1 through 5, which, while being 13 minutes 30 seconds long or something like that, I think it is the most beautiful song ever written and played. And for me, I just love the slow build up, and then you throw in what they call Sid's theme, which is just that bam, 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 bam. Personally, I think that's just a beautiful sound, and that whole 7 minutes of build up just with the light, not necessarily a droning, but just a light orchestra sound in the back that's just slowly building throughout the course of the song. And then you throw in just some very like light phrasing by David Gilmour on the guitar, just very subtle, very gentle, um, with his wonderful tone. And then eventually, once that, like after about 7 minutes of build up, you hit that moment where it's just kind of like the drums kick in, like Nick Mason on the drums. It just he starts banging, and then right when that happens, you get the little guitar strums going in, and I think it's just beautiful. And the vocals, Pink Floyd's lyrics are undeniably amazing, and you can really hear how each line is a tribute to Syd Barrett. And I just love how personally the chorus, when they just say "Shine on You Crazy Diamond," sounds beautiful to me. And between every line, they just Nick David Gilmour throws in another little phrase on the guitar, and I think it's just absolutely beautiful. Um, so, and then I'm not a huge saxophone fan, but I think they do it really well at the end. It just kind of finishes the song with something a little different. And then finishing from "Shine on You Crazy Diamond" parts 1 through 5 into "Welcome to the Machine." I think the saxophone is it's a very not as it's a, not a very abrupt transition, but it's definitely different in style. Like the songs go together, but they're two different songs, which is what I like. Because sometimes these albums can feel like the transitions are so smooth to where it feels like just one really long song, which is great, but can get a little boring. And "Welcome to the Machine," I mean, there's nothing really special about it. It's kind of a, I don't know, regular Pink Floyd song, very psychedelic sounding, very light, um, not very demanding. So "Have a Cigar" is a wonderful song, one of the ones that I feel is very underrated, or at least for me, because I always kind of skipped over it until I really looked into it. And I think just right from the bat, just the riff is great, and the vocals again are just classic Pink Floyd, just very dreamy, psychedelic. But David Gilmour's voice has a little bit of that, not nasal sound, but just roughness that kind of goes oddly perfectly together with the psychedelic sounds. And that song, beautiful guitar solo, pretty standard song. And then it moves into "Wish You Were Here," which is arguably I think it's one of Pink Floyd's most recognizable songs, other than maybe "Another Brick in the Wall." And I think it's a beautiful song. The going for the acoustic sound is a nice change up in the album. Personally, I don't like acoustic as much as electric, but I think it works perfect with the song. Just from the simple riff, the chords repeating, and then David Gilmour's amazing solo at the beginning, and then the lyrics, once again, just a tribute to Syd Barrett. Um, so yeah, that's a beautiful song. It's kind of one of those. It's sort of a go-to sad song, just when I'm thinking about like somebody or something. Just the whole "Wish You Were Here" idea. And then that song goes into "Shine on You Crazy Diamonds" parts 6 through 9. Not as good as 1 through 5 in my opinion, but very similar. And I feel it's just a great way to finish off the album because you're just kind of ending where you began. It's basically just a 25-minute song with a few skits in the middle. And so overall, the album as a whole, I feel every song is unique, but it still flows together amazingly. And that, in my opinion, is what Pink Floyd's amazing at, is that they can have so many good songs, which are great on their own, but you put in the album, and it's just a whole different experience. And I think this album does that, in my opinion, just as well as any other album. Transitions might not be as smooth, but I do just love the whole idea of the album as a whole, and personally, one of my favorite albums of all time. Today I will be reviewing one of the most iconic albums of all time, Nevermind by Nirvana. Came out 1991, and it really just defined grunge as a genre. And for that reason, I think it's very powerful. Probably a very important album that everyone should listen to if they want to at least get into grunge a little bit. One of my favorite albums of all time. And yeah, I just really love looking at it and just how much of an impact it had on the music industry, because it really established grunge, which is one of my favorite kinds of music. So it starts off with Smells Like Teen Spirit, which is the classic, most iconic, recognizable grunge song. That just really kind of, that song really defines the genre. You ask someone about grunge, that's the first song that's going to come to their head, no matter who they are. And it's a great song. I mean, eventually you get kind of tired of hearing it, but it's still good enough. So it's something you can always listen to. It's always reliable. So just the guitar, Kurt's vocals, while the singing, like, from a pure vocal standpoint, isn't great, it fits the music perfectly. Just because he has that such a messed up voice, not messed up, but it's just very not. It's very dirty, very grungy. So, yeah, I mean that's one of the best songs of all time. And you play it, everyone can recognize it. A lot of people can name it. Some people probably know all the lyrics. It was an instant classic, and it really brought grunge into the scene. So it goes on to In Bloom, which is one of my favorite songs on the album. And I love the message behind it. They made the chorus very easy to sing along to, but it's about people who just kind of like listen to the music just because they like the sound, but they don't actually know the meaning, and they'll sing along, but they don't know what they're saying. So I think it's hilarious that they made one of their most easy to sing along with songs about people who sing along but don't even look into the lyrics. Because I think that's a very important part of music, is looking into the lyrics of a song and knowing its meaning. So Come As You Are, that's another instant classic, just right off the bat from the riff. Breed, one of the heavier songs on the album. It just kind of keeps going, and it's good. Gets kind of repetitive though. And it just can get a little too heavy. Not too heavy, but just there's a point where, especially with heavy music, it can just become kind of sounds, and that song kind of dips into that a little bit. It's still good, but there are definitely times where if you just have it playing, it's like interesting. Lithium, another great song about bipolar disorder, because it's just each line is back and forth, like he's just talking about his mental state, and just each line switches back and forth between positive and manic to deep in depression. I think it's cool because with that message, well, lithium is a common treatment for bipolar, and the song itself just kind of goes in between these calm verses, and then it just hits you with a really hard chorus. And then that goes into Polly, which basically marks the first half of the album. Polly is not a grunge song, but I still think it's beautiful. It's just Kurt, his guitar, a little bit of bass for a little bit, and it's a powerful song. You look into the lyrics and the story behind it. It's has lots of meaning behind it, and it's one of those songs that you put on and just the guitar just puts you into a trance. So I think from that point on in the album, it kind of dips in quality a little bit. I think the first half is really strong. The second half is not as great, but still good. So Territorial Pissings is all right. Nothing special about it. Drain You, Lounge Act, both songs that are just, you know, basic grunge songs, nothing special. Stay Away, one of my favorites also, just because I think it's one of the heavier songs on the album, because it's just quick drums, Kurt yelling "Stay Away," and him just slamming it out on some guitar. So it's heavy. So when I'm in that kind of mood, I love that song. And then Something in the Way, average song. Endless Nameless, not too great. Has really nothing going for it. It's just kind of 7 minutes of just Kurt literally smashing a guitar. So, that's that song in a nutshell. But overall, the album flows very nice, has a consistent sound, really defined grunge, but still has enough variety in it to make it very easy to just keep listening to on repeat. And overall great album, big impact on the music industry, and some of the songs have even influenced the way I play guitar. So now I'm reviewing the album Igor by Tyler, the Creator, which was released in 2019, and personally my favorite album to be released that year. So kind of different from the other two albums out I'm reviewing, because obviously it's a lot newer. It's not really a rap album. It's very experimental, very just it's different. But it's not classic rock or psychedelic or any of that other stuff that I normally listen to and review. And that's the stuff I want to play more, but I just thought this album was so great I had to review it, just kind of learn from it, because it's very experimental, and I think that's very valuable in making good new music. So it starts off with the song Igor's Theme, which really just kind of sets the sound for the rest of the album. I think it's that very electric, distorted, kind of like what Kanye West was known for doing, where he would distort someone's voice so it sounds like an electric guitar. There's just kind of that whole crunch and distortion over the whole album, which is great because it's a very odd sound, but it lets you know that it's all one album. The songs flow together very well. They all sound very well together. Yet, despite sounding similar, they're each different enough to where you can tell, okay, this is a new song. It's going to have different meanings, different lyrics, different rhythm, and all that. So it goes into the second track, which is Earthquake. That's like the hit single, probably one of the top songs of the year if Billie Eilish wasn't around. That's kind of the standard song of the album. It holds that very heavy bass in the back, but distorted vocals, which just sound very unique, and it's very crunchy, which isn't something you really see a lot of, but I think Tyler did it super well. I wasn't a big fan of it at first until I listened to the full album straight through and read all the lyrics, which of course it's about heartbreak, but I think he does it in a very unique way. So then it goes into one of my favorite tracks, I think, which still holds that very distorted, heavy sound, but I think that song, just with the whole beat, the sound, the music, it just sounds really good. The chorus is nice, it's catchy, and the parts where Tyler's rapping they also flow very nice. Always kind of sounds funky hearing Tyler sing, especially when it's so distorted. You can't really tell it's him, but I think it works out because his normal voice isn't particularly great. Um, then, it goes into a skit, exactly what you run through him, you end up chasing. Not much to say about that. Then it goes into running out of time. Once again, just holds on to that distorted sound. Then my personal favorite, New Magic Wand, which starts with the famous line, sometimes you gotta close a door to open a window. And then the second that's done, it just hits your face with a very deep and aggressive bass that's just rumbles everything, but it's not necessarily deep, it's just loud and powerful. Then you kind of have the background sound, just like the bells ringing, which I personally love, and then just Tyler's once again very distorted vocals. And then the rest of the album is really pretty similar. It's all distorted, similar sounding, going through the process of heartbreak. So it starts with I think I'm falling in love, to basically New Magic Wand and a boy's gun, and Pup is just kind of using someone. And then Gone Gone, Thank You. That's another great song with just that. Those very powerful, deep hits to keep the rhythm going. And then it transitions into Thank You, which is a very just relaxing, nice song. So that's just talking about how the love is gone. Thank you for the fun, but it's done. Which moves into I Don't Love You Anymore. And eventually Are We Still Friends, which is just kind of that post breakup. Like, oh, this is kind of awkward, but are we still friends? And that song is it's one of the more mild of the it's one of the more mild songs of the album. Still very distorted, still aggressive, but none of the album is overly aggressive except for maybe New Magic Wand when he's just screaming. But other than that, great album. It all flows together very well. I think the whole just experimental aspect of it can be very influential. Just incorporating that into whatever music I may decide to make, just experimenting with something new, something different sounding, and maybe it'll work out like this album and people will love it.